Thanks, everybody. Welcome here this morning. My name is Mike Bacher, and I have the privilege of serving as the CEO of the Aberdeen Development Corporation, and I'll serve as the moderator for this morning's session. First things first, I just want to check, can everybody hear me okay? Volume good, especially in the back, in the corners? We good? All right. If, as we go throughout the day, if you can't hear somebody, please let us know, and we'll adjust the volume on the microphone and make sure that everybody here today can hear everybody. Okay, we're going to start off today. Oh, we got to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, we were supposed to receive a message from Northern State University, but I just received a phone call from President Neil Schnorr here about 10-15 minutes ago. He had a minor emergency this morning. Everything's okay. We have great health care here, so we're blessed. But everything's good, but he is not able to be with us this morning, so he wanted me to mention just a couple things. First off, he wants to, again, thank the legislators up here for their support last year and over the years of everything at Northern State University, but specifically the new building, the NSU Innovation and Health Center, which is slated to, construction will begin this summer. First with demolition, and then they will start building in the fall, so that's a very, very exciting time. The new dean/director of nursing has been hired, and we've also had great support from the folks up here, our elected representatives, on bringing nursing and keeping that moving here in Northeast South Dakota. So Dr. Schnorr just wanted me to pass on his thanks, and to remind everybody, if you don't have anything to do this afternoon, there are men's and women's basketball starting, I think, at 4 o'clock today. I see a lot of head nods. Ladies will kick off at 4 and men to follow. So come and watch our Wolves compete here this afternoon. At this time, I want to introduce the legislators. First off, we want to thank them on behalf of the Chamber for sharing your Saturday morning with us. You guys have stepped up in a big way. You're spending a lot of time, and it's very much appreciated. And whether or not you agree or disagree with anybody on an issue, they are spending a lot of time, and we owe them our respect and appreciation for this service. This morning, we have with us, right over here to my right from District 3, we have Senator Al Novstrup, Representative Brandy Schaefbauer, and Representative Carl Perry. On my left, from District 23, we have Senator Brian Breitling, Representative Scott Moore, Representative James Wangsness. Thank you all for being here. We also have, I don't think we have, do we have any past legislators in the room? Oh, Dwayne. Dwayne's done, yeah. Well, you're county commission too. So, yeah, Dwayne, past legislator, thank you for that service, Dwayne. But also currently serving as a county commissioner as well. County Commissioner Mike Weiss is with us. I believe we also have school board member Dwayne Alm. I know I saw him walk in. He's here, right there. Did I miss anybody? All right, thank you guys for your service as well. Also want to quickly thank our sponsors here this morning, AARP, the Aberdeen Development Corporation, Healthcare Plus, Federal Credit Union, Helms & Associates, Mark Melhoff Insurance, Northern State University, Northwestern Energy, State Farm Insurance, Robert Steele, and the Borns Group. Thank you to all of them. Here's what we're going to do here this morning. I'm going to start off with giving each of our legislators up here 3 minutes to give us a recap of what happened this past week or what they want to talk about maybe moving forward. Once the recap is done, we're going to start with Q&A. So if you have a question, get that ready, and we'll kick those off here shortly. But I think what we'll do is we're going to start off here to my left. We're going to have them stay in their spot today. So Representative Moore, could you hand the microphone over to Representative Wangsness? Turn it on, and we'll go ahead with you. Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. Representative J.D. Wangsness, Miller, South Dakota, District 23. I'm a fourth-generation farmer rancher in the same place where my great-grandfather homesteaded 138 years ago. I'm on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, State Affairs, Military and Veterans Affairs. I'll just be quick about it.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Representative Scott Moore from District 23. I live in Ipswich. I'm on the Education Committee, Health and Human Services, and Veterans Affairs. And I'll just turn her over to the Senator.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Senator Brian Breitling from District 23. I'm Vice Chair of Senate Appropriations, and so I'm just going to take a moment to talk about that and where we're at since I'm the only appropriator in the room. I follow the schedule or the calendar really closely. This past week, we had the economic advisors stop in and visit with all appropriators. Since the governor's budget address in the first week of December, we now have an additional set of around $23 million, and we're going to learn more about that this coming week. But we now have an estimate of around $23 million that we can add to our projects list. This week is the big week for us. We have revenue setting, and so we have Bureau of Finance and Management comes in, gives us an economic report. We have our staff, the Legislative Research Council, that comes in and gives us an economic report. And then we go and have an evening meeting where we set revenue projections for next year. Once we know what revenue projections are, that figures out what our budget's going to be, and that's the $0 sum game that we get to for the rest of this session for one-time funds and then ongoing funds in the future. So once we have that number, next week, bills have to be out of the House of Origin by Wednesday, and so not this coming week, but the following week, okay? And then after that, we have until, I think it's Friday of that week, to get all joint appropriations bills out. So again, this coming week, we have revenue setting, and then after that, that's when all excitement runs through. I'll leave it at just simply enough. Legislative priorities, tuition freeze is important. That's a workforce issue. Beyond that, again, the big three: 4% for prison, 4% for schools, 4% for state employees, and 4% for healthcare. And then the governor has a lot of dollars that she's setting aside for prison construction in the future as well. So more to come on those conversations.
It's all State Senator Al Northrup representing District 3 in Aberdeen. It's always interesting to summarize what's happened in the legislature in a couple minutes. I did a quick look, and there's approximately very close to 500 total bills, resolutions, and commemorations. So that's what I got to describe in the next couple minutes. Some of the ones that jump out as interesting or important. The governor had a bill, Senate Bill 57, and basically what 57 was what they call the second chance bill. In other words, one of the problems we've got today is finding enough qualified people to do jobs that we need them to do. And what was happening is people were unable to get a license to be in a particular occupation when the crime that they had been involved with was completely unrelated to the profession. And what the bill did, it didn't force the Board of Licensing to reject them, but it gave them the opportunity to make a decision if they should reject that applicant or not, where in the past it was an automatic that they would not qualify for that particular license. So good bill for just taking care of people and producing a workforce. Julie Johnson, is she here this morning? I don't see her.
No, she's gone.
Julie's wonderful. Julie comes to us on a regular basis and says, here's some issues you need to pay attention to. She's a lobbyist, and some of the ones that she's highlighted is Senate Bill 53, which is a water bill with $94 million in it. Another bill that is important to Northern is a tuition freeze. We've done tuition freeze years after year after year, so there's been no inflation on tuition. And as we do that, South Dakota has become one of the most cost-effective education you can get, as other states have raised their prices through inflation and we have not. And so if we can, and the way we do that, because there is inflation, we have to pay for additional cost of utilities and wages and salaries, that type of thing. And the way we do that is we supplement the budget. We put extra money from the state into Northern, for example, so they can pay the bills and keep the tuition down. We've got an airport bill that's important to Aberdeen. It's Senate Bill 144, $90 million. Richmond Dam is being reconstructed, And there's been some inflation since the original project started, and got a bill to supplement that inflation, which is very important. If Richmond Dam was to go, things would be fairly interesting in Aberdeen and for all the people that live between here and Richmond Dam. Other than that, some of the issues that catch the newspaper, catch the former newspaper, is what was highly talked about and highly debated for a couple hours was HCR 6008, which Kamak basically was saying that Representative Kamak was saying that there is a effort to put on in the Constitution the right to an abortion, and that died. He won. It basically came out of committee 11-1. Those 12 people on that committee, 11 of them thought that putting abortion in the Constitution was inappropriate. There was a lot of debate as to how extreme that measure was, as it took away the protections that legislatures put into law protecting the woman during those abortions, and the ability, the constitutional amendment that may be on the ballot basically allows abortion to the day of birth. So keep that in mind if they ask you to sign, or keep that in mind if that comes on the ballot.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandy Schaefbauer, and I'm a representative from Aberdeen, District 3. I am on Health and Human Services in the House and House Transportation. We've been really busy in the House, in Health. We have not seen a lot of our bills yet on the floor. We're getting them through the committee, and then they will be debated on the floor quite a bit in the future. But I want to thank the good senator over here for recapping everything, and I don't have much else to say. Thank you.
My name is Carl Perry, and I'm House of Representatives, District 3. And it is really true that when you're last, it kind of, people covered a lot of different areas. But I have a couple things that I'm going to hit with you anyway, and that is that as far as education bills, the governor's literacy effort, HB 1022 will help pay for professional development to ensure all South Dakota teachers are trained on the science of reading, phonics, education, so that's still out there. Then there's a shortage of funding and continuing of teachers' aid to teachers' pathway. HB 1201 is still out there. Removing regulations for teaching technical education. 1187, pro-life bill, the HCR 6008, and also HB 1224 is coming up, and that will help clarify the protection of the mother. And then SB 178, that's from one of our Democrat friends. It's an acknowledgement by the Democrats that the Whelan ballot measures is too extreme, and the governor has included substantial prison funding, and that is a debatable item. Border security, we passed HCR 6010 to acknowledge the crisis at the border and its impact on South Dakota. We did 5 pipeline bills on Monday, and 3 passed and 2 failed. And eminent domain has drawn a lot of strong emotional reaction, and we're going to be going through a lot of those. I think I'm on the House and Health. I'm on the Commerce and Energy Committee. I'm the vice chair, and I think we have 4 pipeline bills on Monday. We had 4 last week, and when we did those 4, 3 went through and 2 of them never. And then there's also the foreign-owned ag land, which is HB 1231, that has not totally disappeared, but the House also heard 3 bills on the pipeline, and the 3 that made it through were HB 1203, HB 1185, and HB 1186. And all these numbers that I just gave you are kind of like gobbledygook, but that's what we deal with every day. Fortunately, we have this little unit called a computer, and it has all the background for each one of those gobbledygook items. So if you have any questions, if they're hard questions, we're going to give them to the senators, but if they're easy questions, the House is ready for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Before we commence and jump into questions here, I want to recognize two groups we have with us today. First, in the back corner, we have a group of high school students from Warner High School. I'm assuming you guys are the government class. Would that be correct? Okay, y'all got to stand up. Great to see your teacher get you guys here so you can learn a little bit about the process. And we also have with us right over here, I believe, right, Gail? Right behind Gail over here, we have the Leadership Aberdeen class. Stand up. Okay, we're going to move into the question and answer part now. Just a couple reminder here on the rules. We're going to try to keep questions and discussions to a single issue on 5 minutes. We'll just kind of go with the flow on that one to the best of our ability. We have a young man right back there, Jensen, right? Jensen has the microphone today, so if you have a question, you can go back there and he can hand it to you, or if you'd rather have him come to your seat, just put your hand up and we'll get him over there so you can ask your question. Just a reminder, we're here to discuss legislative issues and bills for this session. It's not a time for a debate. It's really a time to ask a question that are pertinent only to this legislative session. When you come forward to ask a question, please identify yourself and speak into the microphone clearly so everyone can hear you. We would appreciate that very much. You have 1 minute to briefly identify or describe the bill or issue and ask the question. I'm going to time you today, so if you hit the 1 minute time and you haven't asked the question, we're going to have to move to the next question. I'd also ask you to please address your questions to one or two specific representatives from either the House or the Senate if you can. And if you're watching this event, which is being streamed live by our friends from Dakota Broadcasting, Adam back there is taking care of that this morning, you can also text a question in. The number to text a question in is 605-216-2045. 605-216-2045. Okay, at this time, Dwayne, you're standing back there. Do you have a question? Are you ready to go? We'll go to Dwayne Alm first.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, legislators and everyone. My name is Dwayne Alm. I'm a member of the Aberdeen School Board. My question refers to House Bill 1048D. 1048D. This bill, the proposed amendment, would set the average, or the teacher's salary average minimum at $48,000 for the coming year. This bill also has some other details that are part of the amendment also. I know this bill is going to be heard in the House Education Committee on Monday morning, and I guess I would like to hear what comments you might have or any support that you might have at this time for 1048D. I'll await your questions. The question is for representatives and also for any senator. Thank you for taking my question.
I can start, try and answer this question, since I'm on the Education Committee. 1048 originally don't work. But you're trying to, the governor, if you guys heard the governor's address, budget address, she says the schools have been not taking the full advantage of the percentage of raises. So I've been looking at this, talking to superintendents, looking at more spreadsheets than I care to even admit. But it's, the 1048 originally, it just don't work. It's too big of a jump. Most schools couldn't even do it. So we're kind of on the last hour. They're doing the leadership, and some of them are negotiating right now. They got it down to the minimum's $48,000 a year. And with that, I think there's only 20-some schools, 22 or 28, that even, of 160 are even at that point right now. Most of the schools are around that 40 to 42,000. So now you're looking at $6,000 a teacher just to get them to the minimum. You know, I believe what we have to do is try by Monday, is try and get it till they can spread that over a couple of years to get them to, even if they take 48 and go up to 48.5 the next year or something. But I'm hoping there's still some time to negotiate, because even at 48,000, it's going to put a big strain on a lot of our schools, and I'm not quite sure if they got the cash around to pay that right now. But it's a process, and we'll find out Monday where it all goes.
Okay, thank you for that. Before we go to the next live question, we do have a text question. This is from Christopher, is it Reeder? Gail? Reeder, who is the CEO of the DTOM 22/0 Foundation. For each of the legislators, very quickly, would you tell us yes or no whether you agree with eminent domain for private gain, and if each of your votes will reflect that the rest of this session?
I guess if each one of us are going to do it, I'll start here and we can go down the list. But my answer is I am for property, for the protecting landowner property rights, period.
I am definitely on the side of property owners, and I believe the votes that I have cast already have reflected that.
I'm opposed to eminent domain for private gain.
You guys keep that one they have. Go ahead.
Pretty much following along the same lines, you know, all of us are opposed to eminent domain for private gain. I do want to say, however, I do have the concerns. We need to look beyond today. And so one person should not be able to stop a multi-million, multi-billion, multi-state project. And so there is a balance we need to figure out. That's what we're working through. So a blanket statement doesn't work on any topic.
Yeah, I actually work for a power company. They've never used eminent domain, but I'm for the private property, or for the property owners, and I'm against eminent domain.
I love simple questions. I am opposed to eminent domain for private gain. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court had a ruling some years back in Kelo versus New London that opened it up. Prior to that, it wasn't allowed for private gain. So to combat that, we have to get some sort of legislation that would get all the way up to the Supreme Court and overturn it. So you're talking about a multi-year process. In the meantime, there's landowners on both sides, and they all need to be protected, and we need to try and do everything we can here to protect their rights and strengthen them as we go along.
Thank you all. Who has a question? Anybody in the audience? Okay, not seeing one. Okay, we'll go to you next. I got another text question, but you're next, okay? This question is for Representative Wangsness, and it comes from Deb Ross. Senate Bill 1231. Representative Wangsness, could you please explain if this bill will or could affect carbon or hydrogen pipelines when considering foreign investors in the projects?
The bill, okay, it's 1231, Representative Perry brought it up briefly. It passed through the House Ag and Natural Resources unanimously. It is foreign ownership of ag land. The bill primarily focuses on ownership. When it comes to pipelines and those kind of things, you're talking about leases and easements, which there's some lease protection in here. Easements are, you know, if a landowner wants to enter into an easement, they should have the right to do that. That's land, you know, also goes into private property rights. It's a very complex issue when you get into that. So the short answer would be no. What the bill really does, it's focusing on reporting from the feds so that we know, because right now we don't know how much is out there for ownership and stuff like that. So focusing on the reporting of it from the Fed level. Then we've got given the Attorney General more authority to investigate, prosecute if there is an issue, and it also closes a huge loophole to keep shell companies out of here. So you can't have a foreign entity that owns 90% of a company come in and have one person here that's a small shareholder start buying up land. So it is to protect our land, keep it out of the hands of foreign actors, and we specifically point out bad actors in that, which are Russia, China, and a few are. There's 6 listed in the bill. So the short answer is no.
And for all the audience out there and for those online, I read that wrong. There is no, you can't have an SB 1231. It's HB 1231. I apologize. Okay, question.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the legislators for being here and everybody that showed up this morning. My name is Peggy Kudermarsh. I have 2 quick questions. The first one being I'd like to show a hands of the representatives that are pro-abortion. Thank you. Your mother chose life, and it's a good thing she did. My question being this morning is, when are you going to remove the sales tax off our groceries? My Social Security doesn't go up every time the price of food goes up and the sales tax increases. What are you going to do? We can start with Senator Northrup. What are you going to do to remove the sales tax on groceries?
Thank you. I'm opposed to doing that. Obviously, if we cut $100 million out of the budget forever, we also, in terms of the food tax, if we cut taxes $100 million, we then have to cut services provided by $100 million. And so I don't think it's a good idea.
And I can follow up as well. Obviously, this is a budget-related issue. There is a, I don't know, is it an initiated measure or a constitutional amendment on sales tax?
Constitutional.
There's a constitutional amendment. So everyone this summer, I don't know, either in June or in November, I can't tell you which, we'll have a chance to vote on that. And then once and for all, we can have that conversation and figure that out. And so again, it's somewhere in that range of $120 to $140 million. There's various estimates on what they consider consumable foods. And so once we figure out, first off, once we figure out who's voting for it, whether it passes or fails, that's the first piece. Second piece, if it passes, then we'll figure out that gray area of what is a consumable food product. And then from there, we figure out the budget. And so there's a number of impacting things on that. But right now, South Dakota has a very broad-based sales and use tax, and it includes food. If you exclude food, you will have to figure out how we either cut the budget by $140 million, or we have to figure out how to raise that revenue somewhere else. And so I've been an opponent to changing our sales and use tax policy, but again, open to other conversation.
Does anybody, representatives, do you guys want to talk about it, or are you good? Okay. Next question, just for reference, that there is a group moving to put that on the ballot in November. They're looking for signatures. Sorry, I can't help you with that one, but somebody here, I bet you probably can. So, Commissioner Sutton, go ahead. Question, please.
Good morning. Dwayne Sutton, Brown County Commissioner. I also serve as the chair of the Aberdeen Regional 911 Communication Council, and I'm also on the state board representing South Dakota counties for the 911 Coordination Board on the statewide level. House Bill 1092 will be heard on the House floor or the Senate floor tomorrow. And what that does is it raises the 911 surcharge from $1.25 to $2. The last time there was an increase in that surcharge was 2012. So we've been having to deal with that amount, $1.75 or $1.25 for the last 14 years. As we all know, costs continue to rise, and having an answer at the end of a 911 call is absolutely critical. It's a 24/7, 365 job, and getting those positions filled continues to be a challenge. So my question is for the 2 senators, this bill 1092 has already made it through the House committee, the House floor, the Senate committee, and will be up tomorrow. Obviously, our biggest opponents to that bill will be the cell phone companies. It will be a 75-cent per telephone line increase on all of your phone lines going forward. But that money is critical to continue to maintain the 911 services that we all rely on in the event of an emergency. So I would ask the two senators present today if we can count on your support to raise the surcharge for the 911 surcharge to $2 from $1.25. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I don't have a lot of background on this. The small chatter that I've heard so far, it makes sense to me, and I'll be supporting it. But just leave it open in case there's some new information that comes out since the House vote. It was very strongly supported in the House, and everything I'm seeing right now, I'll be supporting that.
Thank you for the question, Dwayne. I lean yes. I always like to give myself the freedom to listen to the debate and gather new information, but it appears to me that paying $2 per month and having somebody answer the phone in a 911 situation is probably a pretty good value. So, lean yes.
All right. Who has the next question? Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you very much for being here this morning. This is the first time I've ever...
There you go, closer.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever attended and I'm with Aberdeen Leadership. My name is Patty Black Tracy, and I work for Avera. And our question from our group, I guess, is how did you vote on HB 1198? And then if you could elaborate on your thoughts and why you voted the way you did. And if each person could answer, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
HB 1198, right? HB 1198. 1198. Yeah. I don't think that's been through the Senate yet.
So HB 1198 was the bill brought forward by representative to put the Attorney General, Secretary of State, and on the ballot, on a primary ballot, as opposed to being chosen by county committees and things like that. I did support it. There are counties out there without organization. Those voters are not represented, and I've been very, very vehemently supporting our people's choice to vote. And that's the big reason why I supported it, because they're not reaching out. Counties that have well-organized committees, great, they're doing a good job. But there's gaps out there, especially in the rural counties and on reservations, where people aren't being heard. And so that's why I supported it. These are pretty important positions. I trust the voters to do their job.
So here you're going to find out that Representative Wangness and I cancel each other out every once in a while. And we still get along at the end of the day. That's the best part of it. I didn't support it. I truly believe there was a vote at this last state convention, time and place. They voted for the lieutenant governor, had competition. And it was 40-something to 50-something. We've been doing it this way. I believe it works. I'm not ready to change. I believe every county has the right to have their county committee active. They just got to do it. It's to me, it is a little cumbersome, but they have the choice. They just need to get their committees organized and send people to the convention. So I just don't think there's anything really wrong with the way we're doing it.
So a little backstory on this, if the public isn't aware, there were 5 amendments, and I believe all of them were brought on the House floor. So we'd have the bill pitched, and an amendment would come, and we'd debate the amendment, vote. I think all of them failed. All of them failed except the one that just says that we will 1198 will now just elect the governor can choose the lieutenant governor. So it was a very interesting. I think it was a 2-day debate. I told the Pages they had a great learning experience watching this debate. Before the bill was amended down to just the governor being able to pick the lieutenant governor, I was against the bill. How our process works is that everybody elects precinct people, they get to go vote. Well, we are a representative republic. We are not a democracy. Democracy is mob rule. And if we would let everybody vote for all these positions, that would be a democracy. We elect people to vote how we want them to vote. That is why I did not support the bill before it was amended, but I am okay with the governor picking the lieutenant governor. I still have some opposition to that just based on some things that happen in other states. But the way the bill is now, I'm okay with it. But if we don't teach this to our children, how our elections work from the grassroots, you and me level, all the way up to the state offices, our constitutional offices, we're going to lose what we really have. So I think this is something that really needs to be taught and stayed with, because I think our system works the way it is. Thank you.
For a moment, I got to make a correction. All the amendments failed, and the bill failed because we were voted on it as was, which would have included the Attorney General, Secretary of State. So.
Sorry, thank you, JD.
And in answer to the question, I voted against the bill, 1198. Basically what it did was the bill wanted to replace the system that we have with the conventions that we have. And the argument was that only 200 people make a decision. Well, there was 660 people that actually made the decision, so the argument was 66% off. And if you believe that having arguments 66% off is good, then you'd support the bill. I didn't support the bill, and the reason for that is the way it's working now is working. It's a good process. It's a proven process. It's been going for many years. And it is true that 11 of the Republican leadership did vote in favor of changing the process, and 7 Democrats joined them. All right, so those 17 people did say we should change the process, but those of us that are in the trenches and listen to people like you said, we better keep it the way it is. And so that's what we did. We kept it the way it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Good morning. Miranda Goen from Aberdeen. Say, I just have a question, and this is, I'm thinking of separation of powers on this, but especially with the border crisis that's going on right now. So during the Cold War, 86, 87, I served in the South Dakota and the Texas Army National Guard. And so I'm referencing an article that was in South Dakota Searchlight by Dana Hess, really brought to light some of the challenges and burdens for these Guard members. One thing I'd like to mention also from my perspective and experience is when these Guard members are deployed, oftentimes they're going to take a financial hit because in their civilian jobs, they make substantially more money on that. The other thing that I was going to say is, to me, I see this as a federal issue. There's a tremendous amount of political theater that are surrounding this. This should have been taken care of a long time ago, federally, and the governor, the executive branch, we're not getting reimbursed $1 million from Texas. Well, Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, according to the state of Texas. We should be getting that money back as far as that. So what I'm asking you today is I would love to be able to see the legislative branch hold the executive branch accountable, have a little more muscle as far as that for spending. Thank you.
I'll start with that, and I'll leave that open to anyone else that wants to jump in as well. In the United States, we have a federal compact that every state chooses to participate in. It's called an Emergency Management Assistance Compact. Mainly what it's used for is we have a fire in the Black Hills, Montana, and Wyoming, and Nebraska can come and assist. If we have a snowstorm, last year we sent some snow equipment down to Nebraska to help protect them, open up some pathways during a snowstorm. So that's traditionally what it's used for. In more recent years, and then backing up a step, Typically, those are always refunded through what, a FEMA disaster, or maybe it might be an insurance or something that pays for that. So typically, those are always balanced out, and that's how that's compensated. In the last 3 years, we've had 2 deployments to Texas. One was partially reimbursed through a private donation, and there was a lot of consternation about that. Second one was not reimbursed at all. So in our history, we've had only 2 times where that EMAC has not been reimbursed. So the conversation really is now about going forward. Maybe this process is going to change going forward. How do we want to handle that? So we have a work group that's debating a number of issues, trying to figure out, do we set a cap on that? How much latitude do we give our governor on this? Likely, there's going to be another deployment down south to protect our borders. We can either pay for illegal drugs to come to South Dakota, and our local police department, sheriff's department, and other entities will pay for it after we have that devastation locally, which we've all seen. And then we can also choose to protect our young people from human trafficking. That tends to come across the border as well. And so either we can help Texas limit that. We're not going to stop it. We can help Texas limit that, or we can handle it locally. And so that's the debate. That's the conversation. How much latitude do we give our governor to make that decision? I am a National Guard member. I was deployed overseas, not for this type of a mission. We make that decision. That's a decision we make when we sign on the bottom line. There are going to be times where we're called up to protect the United States, to protect our state. So I disagree a little bit with some of the comments that were made. We are struggling to figure out exactly what the future of that emergency management assistance compact should be, and how that should be handled, and the latitude that we give our leaders to make those decisions.
You want to?
The question is, what do you do when the federal government doesn't do their primary job? As the 13 states formed the United States, they assigned different jobs to the states and different jobs to the federal government, and the federal government's job is to protect the nation, to protect the borders. I don't think anybody in this room is going to tell me the border is closed. I don't think they're going to tell me that having an open border makes us safer. I believe the legislature, I know the legislature agrees with the governor. The open border, which is involving what Senator Breitling brought up, some of the issues, but drugs is probably one of the big issues, but also just crime. And so the legislature agrees with the governor. It's a national security issue, and so if the federal government won't do their job, then we have to.
Okay, who has the next question? Okay, looks like we have one coming. And just so the students from Warner and the Leadership Aberdeen class knows, if nobody comes up and asks a question, I'm just going to pick one of you. And you're going to have to start asking questions. So you guys better be thinking. So everybody better have something. Sister Kathleen, go ahead.
Thank you. Maybe I'll sit down then right away. My question, first of all, I want to thank all of you up there for the information. I come as much to learn as for any other reason, because I find it enriching to hear your perspective on issues. One of the things that I really regret that we don't hear much about, and I wish Tamara St. John were here today, is some of the Native American issues that are brought. And I have to say that from my 8 years of being in Pierre as a lobbyist, they get squelched in committee. A lot of times they don't even get to the floor. So we don't know a lot of times what the issues are behind the bills that are brought. And I just wondered if there's any one of you who have delved into any of those issues that are still, I noticed, I counted them, and I think there were eight or nine that were still alive on Friday. And I just wondered if there's anyone that has any insights on any of those bills that would be helpful for our education as much as for anything else, because I think it's, and part of it, you know, could be political, just because a lot of what is brought from the party that doesn't have as many people there. But I think that it's something that we need here in Aberdeen for educational purposes. So I just wondered if there was any insight on that.
Do a tiny bit of insight. Representative St. John does an excellent job, represents the tribe, the people over in that area of our state, and history and things like this, probably equal to or better than anybody in the state. And we do really like working with her, and she has many good ideas, and she shares them with us on a regular basis. So it's, excuse me, it's not like the things that she has to say go unknown, but she has a lot of support, and she has a lot of really good ideas. One of the things that it wasn't her, but Sean Bordeaux had, which was the Code Talkers, wanting to put a memorial up. It was approved in the past, but they didn't have enough money to get the job done. And so now he's back trying to get more money. And I'm the only person on the House side so far that signed up to say, yes, that's a really good idea. And maybe it's because we don't want to spend a lot of extra money, but those 8 people that were the Code Talkers made a difference on World War II. The opposition did not know how to understand what we were saying because of them. They made World War II end sooner. So if we're going to have to spend some money we didn't think we were going to spend, this is one time where I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I grew up probably 8 miles from the Indian reservation down in Lyman County. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it probably has politics, why they don't get more attention than they're getting, you know. But they kind of got their own government in their own governing body with the tribal councils and stuff like that. Their problems are on the reservation. There's not really a whole lot of difference than the problems anywhere else. You put a group of people, I don't care what race they are, and you put them in a confined area or just like a housing development, you're going to have the same issues. So I do know there's probably some help that needs to happen. I got nephews and nieces that are Native American, and it's just kind of a little different. You know, they raise their families a little different, but I would have to say it's probably a little political down there for it.
In the spirit of education. Representative St. John, Representative Tortson, Representative Donnelly, they're all from the reservation, and they have Native American roots, and so there's a lot of Republican representation for the Native Americans, and it's gained some traction and politically and things like that. It gets really complicated because the tribes are sovereign nations and things like that. So we have to be careful with some of the things we do, and it's very complicated, and I don't know enough about it. I wish they were here to speak about it. But yeah, we're making progress, and we do pay attention to their ideas and their thoughts and what they want to move forward. But it is a challenge.
Okay, thank you for the questions and the answer. Do you have a question, ma'am? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I actually have 3 questions on 3 different bills. So you want me to do them just one at a time, or should I do one and then sit down and come back?
Let's do one at a time.
Okay. First one, Senate Bill 1. Oh, by the way, I'm Mary Ann Whitman. I'm from Bath, South Dakota. And Senate Bill 132 on minimum wage. I'd like to know the legislators' thoughts on how they're planning on voting on that.
SB 132, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That bill is no longer. It actually was defeated.
Oh. Okay.
Yep, it was sent to the 41st day, which there is no 41st legislative day, which means that it's over.
So,
How about a second question?
no, that's what, fine. Okay, let's
Okay.
go to House Bill 1042, reimbursing school districts for federal free and reduced lunches. How are you guys voting on that? And if you tell me that one's gone too, I'm probably going to freak out. Again? What happened with that one?
Well, that one also went to the 41st day.
What is with the 41st day? Does that mean you guys don't want to do anything with it?
Do you want to try? Do you want to talk about it?
I don't want to talk about it. I just want to
Brandy,
explain.
can you stand?
Yeah. So it did go to the 41st date, but it failed in committee by one vote. So it failed 8-7, sending it to the 41st date, and that would have been in House Ed, I believe. Yep. So yeah. Sorry.
So that means that it's.
You have to.
You're not
you,
gonna-
you can either hog house a bill and bring it back later in session, or you're going to have to try next year. So it's done for this year. Yep.
Maybe
Rick.
Representative Moore. I'm sorry.
Right.
Are you done? Okay. Sorry. Representative Moore, that came through your committee, didn't it? Do you want to share your thoughts on that?
That would be helpful.
Was that the 160 million? I voted no on it, and I believe it was amount of money. I think it was like $100-some million or something like that. I don't think it was that. I thought it was 30-some million. I think it's 30-some million, to tell you the truth, dollars that they need to fund that program. So it was a money deal.
So we can't find the money to feed our kids or to help our schools pay for feeding our kids so that they can learn?
There's programs out there. There's a federal school lunch program reduced in free meals. There's different levels. There's been a lot of bills on this year alone. So the last one came through was there was a section of parents on a limited amount of income that don't qualify. I know of one that the dad works in the food industry. I don't know what the mom does. They filled out their paperwork correctly, and there's $200 over the requirements to get free lunches or reduced lunches. So it's like everything else. It needs some work, but there's programs out there. It's, I personally got a lot of interest in this. Kids aren't going hungry. I just asked this question in education this last week. Is kids going hungry? And the answer is no. The schools have a fund that they use. There's people come in and help pay. Years ago, a lot of these schools went to using a contractor to do meals. And so they would get, if you had money on your lunch ticket, you got chicken nuggets as a kindergarten. If you didn't, you got a peanut butter sandwich. I've been told them days were over with. I've asked it multiple times in that deal. So there's programs. I just asked it last week. I said, is there any kids going hungry? And I was told no. So
There is a fiscal note on that, and so the cost is $630,000. So, right. So, a couple of points on that. The way this bill is written. So everyone has the opportunity to apply for free and reduced lunch. If you're free, it's already free. If it's reduced, the cost would be $630,000, and then there would be no charge to that person. And so that's where that fiscal note comes from. So the challenge that we have in South Dakota, we have a lot of very proud folks and a lot of folks that will not fill out the application for free and reduced lunch. And so that's part of the challenge. We really need everyone to fill that application out because that translates into a number of different benefit programs. So if we say to everyone that if you don't fill out the form or whatever, we're going to pay for that, or if you fill out the form and anyway, in a nutshell, what we're saying is we want parents to fill out the form, and then we know who classifies into what category, and then from there on. again, they're given the food that they're given. This does not pay if you want seconds or anything like that. So that is that piece. The other piece, going back to your minimum wage, we have an escalator clause in our minimum wage statutes every year. And so I can't remember what the number was, but that would have raised that by like $3 or something like that. And so we have an escalator built in. We voted on that several years ago. And so that's the reason why this bill failed.
Do you know what the minimum is?
I'm going to say it's around 11 and a half, and then this bill would have taken it to like $14 or $15 if my memory serves.
Yep, that is correct. Well, great questions. We got to move on to the next subject. Go back to the end of the line for your third question. Next question.
All right, my name is Jory Kunzman. I am with the 2024 Leadership Aberdeen class. I'm employed by the City of Aberdeen. So my question is for the members of the House that are here today. HB 1185 and HB 1186, which seem to provide additional protections for landowners, went through the House floor on Tuesday. Could you please explain your vote and your rationale behind it?
Sure, I'll start, if you don't mind. Okay, so I voted no on both bills. 1185 is the surveying one that said that you get $500 up front to allow people to come survey. My problem with this bill was that $500 is really, it's nothing. If you say no, I don't want you hunting on my land, that means no. Why can't you say no to a survey? We should have the same exact right. And yes, I know that this project, shouldn't be stopped with just one. That's some people's talking points, but that's not where I stand. We have private property rights for a reason. They're our property. It's our right to say no. It's our right to allow people to come on our land. And this bill of $500, I mean, really nothing. So you read further into the bill, and it says that, let me get to it. The payment provide $500 as compensation for entering the owner's property, and additional compensation for any actual damage done to the property by the entry. Okay, who's paying for that actual damage? What do you have to do to go collect the damage? We have a gentleman, everybody knows, Jared Bosley here in Brown County had, I don't even know what the amount of damage monetarily it was that happened to his property. He was, he has a court case he has to pay for, he has crops that were damaged. Those are tangible things. What about his children that were scared to sleep in their unlocked house that now, I mean, I'm not sure if that still is what's happening, but can you put a price on that? Can you put a price on people's emotions or safety, or how about just them to feel secure in their own dwelling? To me, $500 was nothing. The other bill, 1186, was to my notes. Voted no on that one too. Easement granting. And this bill basically said that they have to, in writing, say that they might mortgage the easement to somebody else, the mortgage holder. Well, I did read the first original easement, and it already states it. This bill really meant nothing. The other reason I voted against it is because our landowners who have been fighting this ordeal were promised amendments in the House, and they did not happen. So they said, nope, we'll wait. We're going to amend it over on the Senate side. Sorry, guys, senators. How do I know? How do I know that's going to happen? My landowners were told that this is what's going to happen, and so we're just supposed to trust. I've asked for amendments to happen in the House, and we were told, no, we'll get it done in the Senate. Those amendments never showed up. So if I'm going to vote on a bill the way I want the bill, it better be amended in the House. And so that's why I voted no on both bills. Thank you.
I voted in favor of both of these bills. Current survey statute, it allows, they send out a letter 30 days in advance. Whether you respond to that letter or not, they've done their due diligence and they can enter your land. That's a bad process. This is a fix. While it's not perfect and doesn't go all the way that everybody would like, it is much better than what is existing. The $500 is simply a payment to enter your land. The actual damages and compensation, this actually strengthens the amount of damages. There's already current law that deals with if your corn's destroyed or things like that, and this is in addition to that. And also, it allows for the going to a circuit court, and this is all going to take place if you are saying, no, I do not want you to enter my land. So then it goes to the courts. There would be a court ruling. At that point, you would establish your damages and things like that. But it's an improvement from what is there. And what's there now was a compromise back in 2016 to fix what was even worse. Before 2016, there was no requirement to even notify them that you were going to do surveys. There's multiple different layers of surveys in the state. Some, and they do it all the time. The utilities do that and things like that. So while this doesn't maybe accomplish everything that you want to get done, it is an improvement over existing law. On 1186, it goes into how you grant easements and things like that. Some of the easements on these pipelines are perpetual. This limits that to 50 years. It also limits if they get an easement and they aren't acting on it in good faith, getting a permit, things like that, within 5 years, the easement will expire. And this is it mirrors the legislation on wind and solar at this time. And I've signed easements for solar in the past, or not solar, wind in the past, gone through the 5 years, they've come back, renegotiated, and many times there's a better easement after that. So this makes pipelines, linear projects like this, the same as that. Also in 1186, I'm gonna have to look here, but let me think here. 1186 also adds in, I gotta go back and look at the paper. Excuse me a moment.
Adds in the dollar for linear foot.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So in past, there's been a lot of discussion about ongoing payments. The 1186 also adds in a minimum of $1 per linear foot once the project is up and running. So once they start pumping CO2 through the line, that landowner will get a minimum, and that's negotiable in their easement. If the landowner wants more than $1 a foot, they can get more if they can get that negotiated with the easement. But it sets it at a minimum of $1. So we're trying to get some help to the landowners. I know it isn't perfect, but it's better than what we have in place. And a step forward is better than a step back. I supported these bills.
Monday, we met in the morning with Commerce and Energy from 10 o'clock to noon, and then we met at about 3:30, and we went till 7, and we did 5 pipeline bills, and these were 2 of the ones that passed, and I voted yes on both of them. And on the first one, it was 10-1 in favor. When it got to the floor, it was 47-17, and that was on 1185A. And then on 1186, it went 8-3 in the committee, and then when it got to the floor, it went 40-24. And I think that JD, Representative Wangsness, really explained that well. This is not perfect, but we did have landowners come, and they were proponents for both of these. And so I'm a big, strong proponent of doing the right things for the landowners. And this, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the expression, it's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. This is really better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. It's not perfect. And it is not perfect, but it doesn't say that there is an easement for carbon or anything like that. What it says is that if the PUC approves these things, then there is a mechanism for the future. But right now, this is kind of getting ready if we need to get ready for the future. I think it's a good idea. That's why I voted yes on both. Thanks.
I'm going to make a comment and say one more thing. Okay. So in the bill, if anybody's looking at the bill, it says that, yes, you can get $1 per linear foot of carbon pipeline on the property, or that's what the payment's for, payable each year the pipeline is engaged in actual transportation of carbon dioxide. Okay, that's fine. So what if it only engages in transportation for 1 year? Your land's destroyed. Your peace of mind might be destroyed. You know, I don't believe, this is, it's better than what we have. Words matter. And that's one thing that I learned, that I have learned. You really have to look at these bills, and you really have to look at what the words are. Engaged in actual transportation. Well, what if carbon dioxide isn't flowing through those pipes in 10 years? Your easement is still there. And it doesn't say that it might be another product being transported through there. What happens then? So words matter. And I just didn't like this bill because I don't think there's any guarantee of the future, and there's definitely not a time limit on how long this carbon dioxide has to go through these pipes with the continuing linear payment. So thank you.
So I've been working on these pipeline issues for a few years, and I've been working on landowner rights for a lot of years. Last year, I talked to a lot of people. There's a process. We have to get it through the House, through the Senate, across the governor's desk. And I kept telling people that last year. I said, if we can't get it through all three chambers and on into the books, then you got nothing. And we ended up with nothing last year. And I don't want to see that happen again. So if we push too hard, we're going to end up with nothing. Just last week, North Dakota had a ruling come down on setbacks and things like that. They've been overruled. If we push too hard and we do things, the feds are going to come in and overrule us, then we lose all local control. We do not want to have that happen. We have to find an amicable way to make this, to protect our landowners and not get, stepped on by the feds.
Okay, thank you for the comments. Next question. Commissioner Weiss.
Good morning, Commissioner Mike Weiss, Brown County, for more years than I care to remember. I appreciate all of the things that you folks do here. My question this morning is going to be asking for some feedback from Representative Wangsness, correct me if I'm wrong, on 1057, which is the bill about funding for indigent legal defense. The judiciary has recognized that South Dakota is one of very few states that participates almost non-existent in prosecuting, much less indigent legal defense for the county's prosecution of folks that are arrested. Just a brief comment. It's kind of interesting that every county has an elected official calls a state's attorney, but the state makes absolutely no financial contribution, notwithstanding having access to the DCI, the state crime lab, and the attorney general's office in extreme cases, much less indigent legal defense, which is an expensive, difficult process. That's a burden on the counties to prosecute people who run afoul of mostly state laws. 1057 is an interesting bill, and it went through House State Affairs, which I believe you're on, so that's why I'm asking you and anyone else who wants to comment. It appears to me to be a fairly cumbersome minors address the issue with that, and so I'd appreciate your comments on how that's progressing. Thank you.
So, yeah, I did. It was on State Affairs, 1057. This came out of the summer study on counties and supporting counties. One of the major issues was indigent and defense funds and things like that. In smaller counties, Sioux Falls and Rapid City are the only counties in the state that actually have a legal defense office where they have defenders there. So in smaller counties, you got to go out and beg your local attorney, if there's one there, to, the judge will call and say, hey, I need you to defend this guy. And it could run in, and then it runs into cost issues for the counties and things like that. One big case can really cost the county a lot of money. So that's where this came from. It actually came from the Supreme Court, from the Justice Department. They wanted this in place. They can implement it, and they can work it across all the counties, and people will end up getting better representation. It's in our Constitution that everybody's entitled to the defense, and this should help accomplish that. And you said it was cumbersome. In which way did you think it was going to be cumbersome? It'll be.
Wait a minute, just a second. Give him the mic back. Say that again so our online people can hear that.
Sorry,
please.
thank you. The appropriately so, but the structure of the oversight and the rest of the administration of it appears to be very detailed and rather cumbersome.
State's attorneys that I've spoken to kind of appreciate this coming along. That structure and stuff will be taken care of within the Justice Department, so they'll be administering it and taking care of that. It won't be an extra burden on the counties if that's what, and then the state's attorneys can go to that department, and it'll be really helpful, and it'll save a lot of money for the counties.
Commissioner Weiss, I'm going to have to tell you, we voted on this in the House just on Thursday? Yep. Okay. Yeah, it was 60 yeses, 4 noes. I was one of the noes. Okay. And I'm going to explain why, because I'm pretty sure you guys are going to ask me. You know, I am about local control. And my thoughts on this is that this is one of the services that the state is just going to pick away at our local control. The cumbersome of the board, you know, it's starting the commission and it's nominations and there were no term limits. We did pass the amendment that there will be some term limits for the people that will be on the commission now. But it also expands our state government. I would rather not have that expanded. I would rather see somehow reimbursement to the counties. That's not in here because everything's going to the state now. Well, yes, that might take some burden off of our counties, but does it really? I mean, we still have to deal with any legal issues and then send them on. It also takes away local jobs. I don't want to see that. I don't want to have people that, you know, have to close up shop because now they're competing with the state and state wages and state benefits and all that stuff. I would have been okay if we would have had like a voucher system. Like if Brown County needed some, reimbursement, why can't we put it in for our county? Because counties are different. All counties are different with the population of, indigent cases. So I just didn't like this taking away county and local control, giving it to the state because you know it's coming in every aspect. And that's what we're fighting for and fighting against in Pierre. And I'm going to be on the side of the counties. Sorry.
Go ahead, Carl.
Mike and Mike, the big thing here is it's past the House. So we can think all we want. It's over to those guys. Bretling and Nordstrom, they're the ones. So if there's anything that you don't like or do like about the bill, pass it on to those guys, make sure it gets through. If you want to kill the bill, talk to those guys because they can get it done. Thanks.
Okay, again, this is a House bill. It's not a Senate bill yet, so we haven't seen it. I've been briefed very, very lightly. I can't find it in the bill here. It seems to me there's the cost of this to set the program up is like $1.4 million, and I think there's a grant that's covering that, but I can't find it specifically in the bill. So, as stated earlier, we have Pennington County and Minnehaha, Lincoln County that has indigent relief set up or indigent attorney system set up. The entire rest of the state doesn't have that. And so what's happening is when judges going into a county and there's a serious case, the judges are having a very difficult time finding attorneys to represent the defendants. And so what this does, it sets up a statewide system. It supports Rapid City and Sioux Falls, but what it does, it sets up a statewide system that those counties that don't have attorneys that can represent the defendants, there's now a process where they can do that. If it's local, awesome. If there's not anyone local or even in the adjacent county or all attorneys locally want to have nothing to do with that, it sets up a system where that there is someone that can step in, whether they're from Pierre, Sioux Falls, Rapid City, or wherever, someone else can step in and they will be reimbursed to defend that person. So again, this bill sets up this process. I believe it's a grant that does it, but I can't find the exact spending on that. The companion bill with this is Senate Bill 31. What that does is alcohol tax. Right now there's a formula for someone buys a beverage at a bar. There's a formula that says a percentage of that goes to the local municipality, there's a percentage of that goes to the local county, and then there's a percentage that goes to the state. The percentage that goes to the state gets redirected to support indigent relief. And so, again, that's a companion bill. It's not in this bill. So there's more to come on this topic. But again, without having the detail, I haven't heard any of that debates or anything yet. I don't know all the background.
If I could just a quick follow-up to that to enlighten, with the exception of the couple largest counties, which pretty well take care of themselves when they have large ones, there is what's called a catastrophic legal expense fund that pretty much all the rest of the counties, including Brown County, participate in to help us pool the burden if and when we have catastrophic legal expenses for high-cost cases, to spread that out, and those are reviewed so one individual county isn't almost essentially bankrupt when there's a huge one, but it's a pooling arrangement that the counties have put themselves into because of that burden. So I appreciate the conversation about the problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question.
I'm back for the third question.
Okay.
Okay, again, my name is Mary Ann Whitman, and this was a Senate joint resolution on term limits, 508. I want to know where you all stand on term limits. So you can go
508,
down.
right?
Pardon?
508?
508. That didn't go to 41, did it?
Yes, actually, it did.
Okay, then I have a question just for everybody that's up there. What are your thoughts on term limits? Everybody.
Representative Moore?
I actually work for a board, and in our industry, term limits are far and few between. There is a few co-ops that do have them. And most of them, I think, are out to 15 years now. We have term limits in legislation. Every 2 years, we put our name on petitions, and you people vote on it. If you're tired of us, you vote us out. If you think we're doing all right, we stay in. And in my world, that's kind of the same way we look at them. Is that's every 3 years you really term out. I used to think term limits were a great thing, and I still think they're probably all right if they're used right. But in some instances, it takes a lot, like me right now, 2 years. I'm still learning stuff every day. When they call me a freshman and I got the color hair I got, I take it as a compliment, but it's actually true. You never quit learning. So like this year, I've been trying to get to more committee meetings that I'm not part of, just to listen in on the bills. Last year, I go down on the floor and I couldn't get back off the floor because I've been lobbied all the time. So it's a learning process. You're not always going to be right. You're not always going to be wrong. But right now we got term limits. It's every 2 years. It's your guys' choice. It's that simple.
I actually sponsored this. So this isn't just term limits. This is enacting the Convention of States, Article 5 of our Constitution. So Article 5 is where all the states can get together. There's 3 different ways to amend our Constitution, and this is one that's never been used. It's controversial. I actually support it, and some people don't, and that's fine. It's a tool that our founders put into our Constitution so that the states can maintain their rights. There's a big fear that if we actually had a convention of states that we might lose the Constitution we have. I participated in a mock convention, and I don't see that happening. It'd be chaos, it'd be very cumbersome and expensive, and it probably wouldn't get a heck of a lot done. But it is a tool that our founders put in there. And one of the things they wanted was this was a resolution to say South Dakota wants to support the Convention of States for the reason of term limits. And when it comes to term limits, we all know the examples out there of who should be term limited. We know those people. We know when it's being abused. In general, like Scott was saying, here in South Dakota, we have 4 terms in each chamber. It's a little short. You lose that institutional knowledge, which is very important for us to represent the people. And when you limit that, the bureaucrats end up having more control than your representatives. So, while I do support term limits to a certain extent, I actually think South Dakota's might be a little short, but I hope that helps answer your question.
Bad news, 41st day. But there's multiple questions involved in the question. I've always been a supporter of Article 5. Article 5 is the Constitution. Article 5 basically was put in there by James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and some of their friends. And what it says is when Congress fails to do their job, it gives the people an alternate path to go around Congress. And so it's people say, well, it endangers the Constitution. No, it is part of the Constitution. So that's one issue. I've always supported Article 5. And the reason I support Article 5 is everybody says it's going to come with some wild idea like take away our guns or take away our free speech or something. Well, the last step in the process is a safeguard that cannot damage us. And that is, well, the last step in the process is 38 states have to agree to it. If you got 38 states agreeing to something, it's a pretty good idea. And when I say a state has to agree to it, the interesting thing is the House, for example, South Dakota, the House of South Dakota, the House of Representatives in South Dakota has to say yes, the Senate has to say yes, and then you got one vote. I mean, that comes up to, you got to get to 38. So if we get a yes in the Senate but a no in the House, that's a zero vote. So the safeguard is there. The other thing to point out about the question is it is related to the term limits is related to the federal government only. It has nothing to do with any other office other than the federal government. I think most of us probably are a little disappointed when you see somebody serving in Washington, D.C. for 30, 40, or 50 years, and they're 90-some years old, and they just aren't cognitive as to what's going on. We've seen some of that, so thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Next question.
Can I just make a comment on that? To me,
really
it doesn't.
quick.
Is that okay?
Really quick.
Very quick. To me, it doesn't make any difference how old you are. It's how long you've been in there. Sometimes we need new ideas, and it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody that's 91 is not still cognizant and able to perform their duties. Somebody at 40 or 50 is not able to do a good job either. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to give you all an education while you're here and to support our local law enforcement communities.
You got to remind us who you are.
My name's Peggy Kudermarch. I'm from Aberdeen.
Thank you.
And in 2023, there were over 3,000 calls to the National Poison Control Center on children that have ingested cannabis. You have stupidly passed a law that says medical marijuana is okay. If you do recreational marijuana, you're selling out your grandchildren, your children, and your communities because businesses will suffer. I come from the state of Vermont, and there they have crime that's running rampant. Businesses are closing because of the drugs. Over 30% of all of those calls were due to 6-year-olds and under ingesting cannabis. I'd like to just see a raise of hands of the 6 representatives that are sitting here. Do you support recreational marijuana? And you know what's going to come with it, the rest of it that you don't want. Show me your hands if you're going to vote for this monstrosity that's going to kill our children and wreck our communities.
Are you referencing a specific bill?
I don't know if there's a bill coming, but I'm just I want to know where they stand, if they're pro-pot or they're anti-pot, period.
There is no bill coming for recreational marijuana. I was not one that put yes to this. We put medical marijuana in our Constitution, and now we have to deal with it. We are trying. I'm on health, and I have seen a lot of marijuana bills in just last session and this session. This is my first term, so I'm just getting started. But it's here. Medical marijuana program was voted in by the citizens. So we have to put some guardrails around it, and that is what we're trying to do. And it sure seems any bill that we think will be a really good guardrail for our state gets killed. That's just my opinion. And so we have to try to work around the existing procedures and rules now to get good, solid bills that will protect citizens.
You're saying you're trying to backtrack what you screwed up to start with.
Well, ma'am, I'm just going to say I didn't screw up anything because I voted against it. I did not vote for medical marijuana put in our state constitution. So when you have a program and you don't know what this program is even going to entail, you have to start somewhere. You can pick the good points from some states, and you hope that those are good things that we are putting into our laws. So it is a work in progress. I hate to say this because I know what you're talking about of kids, they're going and they're getting like the THC gummies that, unfortunately, they're part of the Farm Bill. And so we do have to regulate them somehow. We just have to get things passed, good things passed. And sometimes they die in committees where you think, okay, this is the best guardrails, and then you take it to either the Senate or the House, and it dies. And so we just have to keep trying. Not that, we are trying to have a really good program here in South Dakota. Does it have flaws? Absolutely. Are we trying to fix them? Absolutely.
We came to South Dakota over a decade ago because we figured it was a safe place to live. You do recreational marijuana, and we can take our money and our business elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay, to help set the record straight, I would say nobody here screwed up. Everybody screwed up. So 4 years ago, we had an election, and the state of South Dakota legalized medical marijuana. So that's not on us, that's on everybody. This year, right now, we have a chance, there's petitions out there to repeal that. So rather than blame this group, there's some accountability, rather than blame this group, you need to be supporting the petition to repeal medical marijuana. You got to figure that out. I don't have those petitions with me. The second piece of that, there's also an initiated measure, petitions being out there to legalize recreational marijuana. So if both of these get enough signatures and they're both on the ballot, we have the opportunity to repeal medical and legalize recreational. So again, this is our opportunity as a population, not the legislature. This is our opportunity to get out, communicate, and then make sure you're active during the election season.
All right, thank you for the conversation and the question. Mr. Fishback, good morning.
Hi, my name is Ed Fishback. I'm a farmer here down south here between Warner and Millette. I have a question, but I would like to, if you'll bear with me, I'd like to clear up a couple things on 1185 and 1186 on the discussion. I was one of the people that testified qualified support for 1186. The key word there was qualified. On behalf of our landowner group, South Dakotans First. Both Representative Perry, who sits on the committee, and Representative Schaefbauer, and the rest of you here have been real good supporters of our property rights and landowner rights. The reason there was a split in the vote, let me explain. When I testified, the sponsor of the bill on 1186 agreed with me that he would include the 3 suggestions or amendments that I offered on behalf of our group. He didn't do that. And so that's why some of our legislators who are adamant supporters of our property rights decided to vote no on that. We instructed our legislators on our sides to vote your own conscience on that. If you trust the Senate to do it, then you voted yes. If you don't, you probably voted no. And so I don't think we can criticize either one of the Representative Perry or Schaefbauer or Wangsness for their votes on this issue. But I would hope that they'd keep their word and follow through on the Senate. But we have a real problem trusting leadership in the Senate because the way we've been treated in the past. So that's the issue on those. Okay, my question is, we have a bill coming, probably going to be dropped this week, called Senate Bill 201. What that bill is doing is going to supersede and preempt all local control by townships, counties, and municipalities from putting in ordinances and setbacks, particularly on a carbon dioxide pipeline, but it's going to affect people on other issues too. It could affect CAFOs or anything else. We just had a bill recently killed in the legislature that's trying to take the local authority away from townships where they couldn't close a road if they decided to. Thankfully, that got killed. So my question is, what is your opinion, and will you vote to kill Senate Bill 201 when it comes before us? Because we need to keep our local control the way we have it now. In fact, we've got 2 Brown County commissioners here who have an ordinance in place, and they did what the citizens of the county asked them to do, along with several other counties. And they deserve to keep the control locally because they understand their citizens the best. And we can't have the state putting in a one-size-fits-all.
Let's go with the question here. The question, I think we probably direct that to our senators because
I'll start out. I've been opposed to Senate Bill 201 from the beginning. I'm still there now. Since the legislative session has started, there's been a lawsuit that settled in Iowa that said that the setback requirements in 2 of those counties were too extreme. And so the federal government overruled those setbacks in Iowa. This week, North Dakota said basically the same thing, that some of those county sidings, some of those county setbacks were too extreme, and so they're no longer legal from the statewide standpoint. So the Public Service Committee, PSC up there in North Dakota, they came up with the same conclusion. So I'm really struggling. Okay, do we not pass this bill that's got some protections for counties and just go on the blanket statement that all counties should have complete control, and then we lose control by having the feds come in and dictate that to us? So that's where I'm struggling. I've been opposed to this bill, but there are things happening in our world that there are things we can control if we're in the conversation. If we're not in the conversation, we sometimes lose that ability to control that. So again, I've been supportive of 201. That's where I stand today. I want to see what the discussion is, where the amendments come up, but we'll see you this week.
As a legislator, it's always good to stay on the fence so you can listen to both sides, but I cannot imagine that I would be voting for 201. I suspect as I hear the debate, there will be enough reasons. The primary reason is the local. We as legislators come to Pier all the time and say we respect local control. We as conservatives believe that the best decision is made closest to home. And that means it's not made in Washington, D.C., it's not made in Pierre, it's made in Aberdeen, and even better than that, it's made in my living room. So local control, which I'm an advocate for, says that we should let Mike, Dwayne, and friends make the decision. Thank you.
All right. Oh, JD?
I haven't made a decision on 201. I'm watching it very closely. I want to see what happens in the Senate. Senator Breitling brought up the very good points, which are the same points that I've emphasized for the last 2 years. If you push too hard and you go too much and the feds come in and step on us, then we lose everything. And I really want to avoid that. If this bill can give a reasonable range so that there is still local control or something, I think that's its goal, is to have a reasonable range so that setbacks and things don't get abused, then there's some merit to it, because that'll hopefully keep the feds at bay. The lawsuits and the decisions are coming in. So the writing's kind of on the wall what's going to happen if we go too far. So we just really got to be careful of that, and so that we can maintain as much local control as possible.
Representative Wangsness has a good point, and he is my majority whip, so that means he's my boss, underneath the boss, who's underneath the boss of the boss, under the governor, and so about 18 rows down, that's where I am. But anyway, long story short, I'm going to listen to what the people say on 201, but I'm going to really follow the advice of Nancy Reagan. Just say no.
I'm not Carl's boss. You are.
So in September of 23, PHMSA, which is the Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration, wrote to Mr. David Giles, President and COO of Navigator CO2, because PHMSA was, they hadn't ruled yet on carbon pipelines. And if we're talking specifically carbon pipelines, that's what I'm going to stick to with this letter. In this letter, he says, or whoever the author of the letter is, wants the federal, state, and county levels to work together. But as you go down in the letter, it says, now of course I need to find it, Congress has vested PHMSA with authority to regulate and design, construct, operate, and maintain pipeline systems. Therefore, the responsibility for siting new carbon dioxide pipelines rests largely with the individual states and counties through which the pipelines will operate and is governed by state and local law. That is why we need to keep local control. That is why we need to make sure we, as representatives and senators, protect our counties, protect our county commissioners. They know what's best for the counties that they represent. Brown County is very different than Minnehaha. Minnehaha is very different than Walworth. The people at the local level know their counties and their populations best. PHMSA has said that we need to make sure that when it comes to carbon pipelines, which that's the big topic of the day, we need to keep it at the local level, and that's what I am going to do. And if 201 comes to the House, I will be voting no. Thank you.
All right.
30-second follow-up quick.
Real quick.
The PUC has already the authority to rule whether the ordinances are fair or reasonable or not. During the permitting process, they ruled that all the counties that had passed them, that they would keep them in place because they were fair and reasonable. So the bill's not needed. The PUC already has that authority. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
This is actually a follow-up question for Senator Breitling.
Sir, you got to tell us who you are first. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas Leonhardt. I'd like some clarification, Senator. When you was talking about Chris Reeder's question, you said one person shouldn't be able to stop a $1 billion project. Exactly, I know there's groups out there, but who's the one person? And also the second part of the question is, if it's a $1 billion project and it can't be stopped, what's the minimum dollar amount?
Just for clarification on, the question was, are you opposed to eminent domain for private gain? That was the question. And so, flat out, I am not supportive of eminent domain. With that being said, look at our roads, look at our railroads, look at our water lines, electric lines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If we had a situation where one person could stop the railroad system, 100 years ago, where would we be today? That's my only point. In our world today, there are too many folks that take the position of no or you're leaving. That's it. At some point in time, some people have to come to a table and have a conversation. It doesn't mean there's going to be winners and losers. There needs to be an opportunity to have a conversation. And so when you have multi-state projects, interstate commerce, philosophically, I do not believe that one person has the ability to control that and that. So I'm not for eminent domain for private gain, but I am saying that there is a role for eminent domain in our world.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm right on that your one person was just hypothetical, and that's probably never ever anyone that one person was able to stop anything.
I'm not sure if I'm following your question, but
your one person was just hypothetical, because as far as I know, there wasn't anybody that one person was able to stop any kind of project.
Right, one person is hypothetical, right.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you for the question. Next question. Okay.
Miranda Goen from Aberdeen. This is directed, this pertains to Senate Bill 216 for Senator Nostrum. say I appreciate the email exchange that I've had with you, Senator. You, during testimony, and I listened to the couple of comments from the other senators during that time, but one comment that you made was as far as what age is puberty. And one thing that I really like to stress is that this bill was designed as a reasonable to help undo the damage from 1080 from last session. And the one thing I want to stress is that when these parents when they're trying to help their child, they have a team together of medical professionals, mental health and medical professionals. It is extremely rigorous. And, the problem is that we have citizen legislators that they seem to be undermining that professionalism and their expertise. And so what I'm asking you is, would you be willing to help do a smoke out and bring this bill back? Or the other thing that I was going to say is, please, if you do have questions, we can provide sources to get further information to help these families. Thank you.
I believe the bill was in one form at the beginning, and there was an amendment that was offered to put it in a different form. So I'll just talk about what we're really talking about is three things. One is puberty blockers, which takes someone who's in puberty and stops it and causes a lot of damage when we do that. Also, there's what's called cross-sex hormones, which is you give the boy the girl hormones and vice versa. And that tends to be not a good idea also. And the third thing is surgery. But what the prime sponsor wanted to do at the end after he offered an amendment, I don't think it passed, but his last position was last year we said you can't do puberty blockers along with cross-sex hormones and surgery, and his last position was let's do puberty blockers. And I looked it up. I asked my very good friend, Mr. Google, when does puberty start? And depends on which site you end up with, but basically age 8, 9, 10, or 11 is when puberty starts. So, I asked the Senator Nesbaugh, who was the prime sponsor, I said, is there a drafting error in this bill? And he looked at me and said, what do you mean drafting bill? And the answer is, the way it's written, you're authorizing puberty blockers on 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds. Are you serious? Does you think that's a good idea to have a doctor and a parent convince an 8-year-old to do puberty blockers when there's a lot of scientific evidence that it's going to stop a lot of development that needs to happen? And so we voted it down 5-1 because we thought it was too extreme. And I continue to think it's very extreme to tell a 10-year-old that I'm the parent and you're going to do puberty blocker. And good luck when you turn 19 and 20 and you hope your body is not where your body should be. I would not be in. We voted 5-1 to kill it to the 41st day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question and the answer. Next question. Go ahead.
When it's talked about, Tom Leonhardt, I'm also a veteran. I spent 21 and a half years in the military. I was over in Iraq for over a year, retired as a sergeant first class. And myself and a bunch of others, we were really busted up when we came back. And this has to do with the medical marijuana. For 14 years, I started out on oxycodone, and then they had me on full-time on Oxycontin, and then after that I was full-time on morphine. With the medical marijuana, I was able to quit all that and just do the medical marijuana. And I only take one gummy. I don't get high or anything like that, but it does wonderful for me, and it doesn't have near the side effects of the hard opiates that the VA and everybody else was giving me before. And I'm just curious on why everybody's against the medical marijuana. If the legislators could answer that, I'd greatly appreciate it because it works. As sure as heck it isn't as addicting, as sure as heck it doesn't have the side effects of the opiates.
Representative Perry.
The statement everyone's against medical marijuana is incorrect because it did pass and it is in effect, and there are medical marijuana cards and people are using it today. I, for one, was on the marijuana subcommittee that met in the summer, and I've toured Iowa and Flandreau and other places, learned a lot about marijuana. But I'm one of the ones that said, instead of just having a physician give a certification, we need to have a PA give a certification and also a nurse practitioner, because those are the people that are working with the people like yourself or myself. And so I am not against medical marijuana, and I don't think the legislature is against medical marijuana. But I think what Representative Schaefbauer said earlier, she said, we just want to make sure that we're doing things correctly. So if you want to do things correctly, we're your guys. If you want to do it like the Wild Wild West, probably not your guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question and the answer. Also, thank you for your service, sir. It's much appreciated. Okay, yeah. All right, as long as we get questions, I've got the legislators' permissions. We're just going to skip wrap up because we're getting a lot of great questions here, and they appreciate that. So, Mr. Lapka, do you have a question?
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Lapke. I'm a farmer and rancher from Leola, South Dakota. And I hate to keep beating a dead horse here. I realize the CO2 pipeline has been a big topic, but there's a big week coming up, so I think it's very pertinent to be addressing it. Problem that I had from the very beginning with this entire project and what's all coming into focus here is the government's going to be providing the access to survey. The government's going to be providing the property through condemnation in order to place this project. And in this case, the government's going to be providing the revenue through tax credits that is the only reason for all of this is existing. And I know we've been getting a bad rap that we've been called anti-ethanol. That is not the case. We are farmers and we're corn producers and we appreciate what ethanol's done for us. But I don't think that it is right, and I'm a corn farmer, that if it's going to affect somebody that doesn't want it, for my self-interests, and if they don't want to give it, it shouldn't happen. And that's been the whole crux to this whole issue, is eminent domain. To Senator Breitling's point, there are projects out there that are of public use and beneficial to the public that in certain instances it's probably appropriate. My opinion is this project does not meet that barometer. And so there is a bill coming up in Carl's committee on Monday, House Bill 1219, that is going to take away the ability of CO2 projects to use condemnation. And I guess that's something that we feel is very reasonable. It is an issue, or it is a way that property rights, our constitutional property rights, and the project can coexist. And that's beneficial for everybody. The state of Minnesota, the state of Illinois. You don't hear about much controversy over there because those states don't allow condemnation. And I'm well aware of the Kelo versus New London decision, but if other states have been able to do it, so should South Dakota. And when it comes to Senate Bill 201, how about South Dakota does it right? Doesn't matter what they did in Iowa, doesn't matter what they did in North Dakota. Our PUC did do their due diligence and review those ordinances and consider them reasonable. One state getting it right is good. But my question is, will you support no eminent domain for CO2 pipelines specifically?
Did you want that directed to any one person, Mark, or all? Okay, Carl, do you want to start since it's in your committee? Or Representative Perry, sorry.
You can call me Carl.
Okay.
My wife calls me honey, so, and I like her.
I'm going to draw the line there, Carl.
I've been called a lot worse things than that, just so you know. But long story short, I think this is a good bill. I'm definitely going to listen to it closely. And when we say it's my committee, It is a committee I'm on. I'm the vice chair of the committee. What that means is I get to do whatever the committee chairman says, and I do it as quick as I can because he likes to get things done. But the bottom line is, I think this is a good idea. I think we're going to have a lot of resistance. The truth is, I believe that the opponents will be from here to the restroom door, and the proponents need to be there really soon and be organized. It's going to be a tough one. All of these pipeline bills have been tough so far, but one of the things that I would give as advice to the proponents, because not everybody's doing this, have your people be brief and be ready. And when we set that clock at 15 minutes for people to talk or be a proponent, what a lot of times happens is people take time getting up there, sitting down, turning on the mic and all these things. Really be ready to go, and you're going to be able to get a lot more accomplished. So that would be my hope for you. And my hope for you is that this bill is successful. However, I'm only one vote.
As it's written, I would be opposed to this bill. As Representative Schaefbauer said, words matter. It says on line 7, transporting carbon oxide. So what is that? So the bill's not in the right form at the moment, but I'm sure they'll fix that, but I'm glad I brought that up right now. But as far as, I would be inclined to support something like this. I don't know if it'll get through. And that, there again, we're back to, did we do any good? But yeah, I would be inclined to support it if that amendment is made.
Yeah, if this bill gets the good fortune of passing out of Representative Carl's committee, I will definitely support it on the House floor.
With the amendment. Yes. Okay, thank you for the question and the response. Next question.
Sure. All right, Logan Manhart, candidate for State House in District 1. I'll give you a freebie question here at the end. So I'm 25 years old, and we're joined by a lot of other young people as well. So what, if just one or two you want to say some things to the young people, what message do you have for them? Why should they be here? Why should they continue being involved in the legislative process and the political world? And we'd be happy to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Well, since I'm a freshman, there's a lot goes on behind the scenes. Some of the representatives are up here. We get to do stuff, get asked questions, and you guys never hear about it. When you put Representative Scott Moore, District 23, behind your name, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like wearing a badge. And you get certain things done that you probably couldn't get done otherwise. So that's one thing I'd like to really lay out there is we're able to help some people just by going and talking to people. That's big. We work with the pages. Senator Northrup lines up education hour where we meet with the pages. That's always interesting. There's some very young, intelligent individuals coming that are going to be our future leaders. So that's another good reason to be in this. The politics aside, you learn a lot, but there's more to the job than coming to Cracker Barrels and answering questions. You actually are making a difference. Some days you may not think so. Some days you think your votes aren't counting, but at least you're at the table. And we heard that today multiple times on land issues. You got to be at the table. That's the secret right there. If you ain't at the table at the end, you're going to get what they give you. So I would say that's probably one of the best things you can tell the young people.
I'll give you 3 reasons why you should be involved, and you should write them down. Got your pen ready? Freedom, prosperity, and safety. Freedom, prosperity, and safety. We've got all 3. Most countries don't have that. We're not guaranteed to have that forever. It goes away if we're stupid. I'll give you some examples of if you elect bad leaders, you will lose those 3 things. Cuba is an example. They don't have freedom, they don't have prosperity, and I don't know much about their safety. Venezuela elected bad leaders. and they're a train wreck. Poverty, misery, crime is what you get. And I can go on and on and on. I'll give you at least one more example, maybe two. Gaza elected Hamas. They had an opportunity to have prosperity, freedom, safety, and they chose misery by choosing the wrong leaders. Millions and billions of dollars have gone from the United Nations and the United States into Gaza. And what the hope was that they would build a resort area on the Mediterranean. And instead, they took all the money that was given to them by the world, and they built tunnels and military. So we're all going to live in the future. Do you want freedom, prosperity, and safety, or are you okay with misery and crime and poverty?
All right, one final comment on that, Representative Perry.
Those were three good terms, but mine is going to be a little bit different. The reason that I think you should be involved and the reason I'm really excited to see you here is because you can make a difference. You know, a lot of times a person thinks, well, I can't make a difference. You can make a difference, and that's what you need to know is that each and every one of us can make a difference. I have a person that's a paraplegic, and he wants to go hunting. But he can't go hunting because he has a motorized vehicle, and the rules say you can't take a motorized vehicle into this area to hunt. Guess what? We can change the rules and we can make things happen, and we can make it so that a person that could not have that opportunity can have that opportunity. That's why we do this. We don't do it for us, we do it for you. And when I talk about you, each and every one of you have different things that you need. And what we try to do as a leadership or a legislator, we try to learn what it is that you need. And whatever it is that you need, that becomes our goal. And if you have a need that we won't agree with, we'll let you know that and we'll talk about it. But the big thing is you can make a difference. And I'm excited to see you guys here. I remember a long time ago, I was in places like you are, and it makes a difference. Someday, one of you will be the governor of South Dakota. Someday, one of you will be the chairman of the Brown County Commission. Someday, one of you will be the president of Northern State University. All of you have great opportunities, and the fact that you're here says you care. Now, maybe your teacher said you had to be here, and I'm giving you a lot of credit where you're just here because you have to be, but the fact is, even if you have to be here, you're doing the right thing, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, we are going to go to Representative Moore for one final closing comment from our group up here, and then I have just a couple announcements, and we'll wrap up. Representative Moore.
So with all of our differences, there's one thing we got to remember. I ain't quite sure I didn't even do this. We lost a law officer this week. Here.
Moody County Deputy Sheriff was involved in a accident where he was they were working with, he was a secondary participant in a high-speed chase, and he was hit and killed, and his funeral was yesterday, and so we want to honor the life of Kenneth Michael Prorock, the Moody County Deputy Sheriff. Thank you.
I think that that shows part of the importance of serving and kind of how things work here in South Dakota. You know, just thoughts and prayers for his family and friends. Tough deal, for sure. To wrap up today, by my count, I think this was a good day. We covered 21 different topics and bills, and we have to thank Northern for allowing us to use their awesome facility here. Dr. Schnorr was able to join us. Dr. Schnorr, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here and use of your facility. Thanks again to all of our sponsors and also to our legislators here from our districts that were able to join us this morning. We thank you all for your service. We thank you all for coming and attending today. I wish you all an awesome rest of your Saturday and a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much. Gail, next Cracker Barrel, what's the day? February 24th. February 24th, right back here on February 24th. Hope to see many of you back here again. Thank you.